to watch the clock and get as much information as we can about the situation at Nkandla with the former president's deadline fast approaching. At about 1 hour and 35 minutes now is the deadline that's been set by the Constitutional Court for the arrest of President Jacob Zuma following his failure to hand himself over by midnight on Sunday. Well, let's speak now to the spokesperson of the Jacob Zuma Foundation, Mzwanele Manyi. Mr. Manyi, thank you very much indeed. Welcome to the program. Where is the former president this evening?
Good evening, Peter, and to the viewers of SABC. The president is in South Africa, and
Why is it that you're finding it difficult to tell us where in South Africa he is?
Because to tell people where exactly President Zuma is, as far as we are concerned as a foundation, is a security risk. If I tell you where he is and something happens to him that is untoward, and would you like to be suspect number one in the case of people that knew where he was, and therefore whatever happened to him, you are responsible for it as well?
All right, but the authorities know where he is. I would imagine that you're communicating with them.
There are other people that deal with those things at that level. I don't know who's talking to who about that, so I can't confirm that with you at this point.
Good morning. All right, so from where you are sitting, what is the current status of the former president's situation in terms of, we've got an hour and 32 minutes now before a deadline expires for this court order for the police to take Mr. Zuma away. What's your understanding of where we are right now?
Okay, where we are right now, we are on a situation where we have a person called President Zuma who has been sentenced to jail for 15 months without a trial. So as we are right now, we're sitting on the biggest travesty of justice. We're sitting on a situation where judges that did the judgment, or the second judgment, have characterized this judgment as unlawful and unconstitutional. This is where we're sitting now. We're sitting with a judgment characterized as unconstitutional, but we've got the whole regime apparatus ready to take President Zuma as if they are there to extricate a drug lord, as if they are there to extricate the biggest criminal ever. We see on TV and everywhere the number of vehicles that are there. It's like
Mr.
we're
Manyi,
going to take out an army general.
Mr. Manyi, if you could just hold
Yes.
for a second. We're seeing an ambulance outside the Nkandla homestead. Let's just cross there now to our reporter Simpiwe Makanya, just to get a sense of why that ambulance might be there. Simpiwe?
Yes, Peter, the visuals that you see right now are of an ambulance that was trying to gain entry into the house of the former president, and it is being denied entry by the supporters of the former president, who continue to sing outside his home. And together, of course, with those few members of the MKMVA, they are now directing the ambulance to leave the entrance of former President Jacob Zuma. It's not just one ambulance, Peter. This is the biggest one, the minibus one, but there are others that were accompanying this ambulance that you can see now in your visuals. It's not clear what the ambulance was here for, because there are no law enforcement authorities accompanying this ambulance, Peter, at the moment. So supporters of former president continue to gather outside the main entrance of his home, and they are chanting songs such as Maguliwe, Maguliwe, Ulindwebani, meaning let's fight, let's fight. What are we waiting for, or who are we waiting for, Peter?
Alright, Simpiwe, we're talking to the foundation spokesperson, so we'll carry on watching those visuals. Perhaps he might be able to provide some clarity for us. Mr. Manyi, Do you know if there's any medical emergency that might require ambulances at the former president's residence at this time?
Unfortunately, I don't have any information about that. I'm hearing it for the first time as you were crossing live to that situation.
And it seems as if that there are people at the front of the homestead that are turning vehicles away. Is that under instruction from the former president, or are they doing this out of their own volition?
Stupid question.
I have no idea. They are probably, see, the people that are supporting President Zuma, they run their own program. These are diehards, people that are peace-loving. These are people that want justice for President Zuma.
Peace-loving.
So they've got their own programs and their own approaches. We don't direct them as the foundation or as President Zuma. They do their own thing, driven by their hearts and minds and by their sense of justice.
You
All right,
support
Mr.
them.
Manyi, I think that we might have an answer to the ambulance scenario. Let's just go quickly there to the president's son, Edward Zuma, who's speaking to our reporter, Simpiwe Makanya. Simpiwe?
Edward again. You think you're gonna get an answer from Edward?
We continue to be outside former President Jacob Zuma's house, and with us we have Mr. Edward Zuma, the son of Mr. Jacob Zuma. Mr. Zuma, a short while ago we saw the arrival of ambulances that were directed to leave this place. Is there an emergency happening inside the home as we speak?
We do not know. If ever there's an emergency, I'm sure we would have known about that, because there are paramedics that always move with the former president. So any other emergency vehicle that comes here is very surprising. We're not going to allow the thing.
We are not going to allow.
Former president is in South Africa, like I said. Former president is in South Africa. We were not told as to who to allow and who not to allow.
It could be a life-threatening situation.
If it's a life-threatening situation, we would have been the first people to know.
Mr. Zuma, you do understand though that the supporters of former president are gathered here and it's illegal to do so during this time especially.
We're in a situation of war, whether there's
War.
corona or not. We don't care about that right now.
Oh my God.
We're here to defend for President Zuma. Thank you.
PM, there is curfew.
Curfew or no curfew.
All right, thank you very much. That's Mr. Edward Zuma there, giving us a brief update, basically not telling us much in terms of the situation that has just unfolded here outside former President Jacob Zuma's house, where we saw the ambulances arriving, but were since told to leave the house of the former president. In fact, they were not even allowed to enter the main gate of former President Jacob Zuma's house. At the moment, the supporters, the numbers seem to be, increasing from the ones that we witnessed earlier on, and they continue to chant slogans. They continue to sing in support of the former president. These supporters say they are not going to let anyone enter this main entrance to gain access to the house or to the home of the former president. Peter?
Simpiwe, thanks very much indeed. We'll cross to you again a little bit later on as you get more information. Mr. Manyi, does it concern you that after curfew you've got people outside this homestead breaking the law and singing songs talking about fighting?
I think what concerns me is selective morality of the media.
There we
we
go.
have a situation where a person has been sentenced to 15 years incarceration, 15 months incarceration without trial, but that is like normal to you, and all of that. So that is what actually worries me. Why is it that we have a media in this country that has got no sense of justice? Why is this concern only coming now at a reaction to the provocation? People of South Africa have been provoked, and you're asking me about, is their response to provocation rational or not? But you're not asking about the provocation itself. We coming from an apartheid era where there was detention without trial. Now we thought we're in a democratic situation where every person's rights are going to be respected. The Constitution is very clear on this, Section 35, that if you say a person is accused then these are the rights. But if you are saying President Zuma is not the accused, just so you could deny him the rights, but to lambast him with a sentence that is equivalent to people that you're saying are accused, and as you do that, you take away his right for appeal. Why is
The
President
real
Zuma
talk
being persecuted
now
like this?
begins.
This is what we don't understand as the foundation, to say, what is this biggest crime? Because very clearly, what is happening for President Zuma, he doesn't deserve it, and we don't know why he's being persecuted like this. Why is the whole army of police vehicles there as if they're coming to fetch a drug lord, as if they're coming to fetch some army general that has got machine guns? Why are they humiliating him like this? What has President Zuma already done to deserve this?
Manyi.
And the only crime that President Zuma has is that all he wanted
One
for
up
this to happen,
for Manyi.
the only thing that he ever wanted was a neutral chairperson.
It's
Now,
so-
if for a neutral chairperson, you have
Good
to go
argument.
to 15 months because this thing has been morphed into other things, that can't be justice for President Zuma.
Mr. Manyi, let's unpack some of those issues then. Let's start
Yeah.
with the idea of detention or imprisonment without trial. If we start
Good
with the
journalism.
premise that a hearing, a trial is actually a hearing, isn't it, that happens in court. One hears the defense, one hears the prosecution, and then a decision is made by a judge. The Constitutional Court had a hearing, and the former president, had an opportunity to present himself and say his side of the story, but he chose not to go to that hearing. All we heard from was the commission's lawyers saying why the president should be compelled. Why didn't he go to the Constitutional Court and say his side of the story at that hearing, which would have given him an opportunity
Quality
to
journalism.
state his case?
That is phase two, and this is the problem. You are cherry picking. If you say, let's understand this thing properly, let's start from the beginning. And I won't even go to what happened in the commission. I'll go to what happened in the Constitutional Court in the first instance. In the first instance, when DCJ Zondo took the matter to the Constitutional Court, one of the things that some of the justices have been asking there is that what was the logic for the Constitutional Court to allow itself to be a court of first instance? Why is it that DCJ Zondo, in the first instance, if he thought that President Zuma was in contempt of his own commission, he had a remedy that he could have used. Why didn't he go and report to the NPA and open a criminal case, as it were? And that process would have allowed a trial to happen for President Zuma, and then it wouldn't be where we are today. You see, so that didn't happen. So the court, the highest court in the land, allowed itself to be used as a court of first instance.
The man
And
knows
that
what
does
he's
is
talking
that
about.
Therefore, it takes away your right for appeal, because now we've used the court number 3 as it is court number 1. So when things happen there, you can't appeal anything, as it were. Why did the court create that situation? That's a problem. That's where the whole thing starts. That if you
Mr.
look
Manyi,
at the role,
Mr. Manyi,
let me make this point.
Yeah.
Let me make this point. If you look at the role of the Constitutional Court, the role of the Constitutional Court is very clear in the Constitution. It's stipulated that Section 167, Paragraph 4. There are details of what is it that the Constitutional Court should be doing, dealing with contempt of court and stuff like that. All those cases are not in the exclusive domain of the Constitutional Court. Why did the Constitutional Court in the first place deal with this? This is why this case actually is fundamentally flawed from the beginning. And to get to the next phase, the phase that we're talking about, I think
But that's not the beginning.
Two things. We are confusing a constitutional court, which is a motion court, versus a trial court. The two are not the same. In the trial court, like in the high court, you get witnesses, you got cross-examination, you get all of those kinds of things, which do not happen in the constitutional court. This is why there's a difference between a trial court and the constitutional court. The two, they may look the same to a lay person, but they are fundamentally different.
All right,
And
Mr.
one does not
Mr.
use
Manyi,
the other.
can I speak now? All right.
Yeah.
So
Very polite.
Again, he had opportunities, not once, several times, to approach the Constitutional Court and state his case. They even begged him. They said, please, Mr. Zuma, please present to us your thoughts about this case and an appropriate sanction for contempt of court. He didn't bother.
You are missing another step. You are missing another step. Another step in the process. President Zuma then took the differences that he had with DCJ Zondo to a review, to review the fact that DCJ Zondo does not want to move from the chair and allow a neutral person so that President Zuma can table his version of all these unsubstantiated allegations. Now he takes this matter to the review to a court to have this decision of DCJ Zondo reviewed. Now, whilst waiting for that review process, DCJ Zondo, because it's got connections in the Constitutional Court, I would suppose,
Connecting
then
the
takes the
dots.
matter there, and before we know, the matter has now become a matter in the Constitutional Court domain. Now, President Zuma then says, why are we now undermining the High Court? Why are we undermining the processes in the High Court? The High Court is dealing with this matter. The High Court has not ruled on this matter. Why are we dealing with this matter as if there is no review process coming in? What happens? In fact, one of the things that one of the judges asked, I think it was actually even Judge Jafta himself, he asked a question to Nugant who was presenting the case that, okay, now assuming we rule whichever way we rule here, and then before we know, the review court comes up with an application and it indeed finds that DCJ Zondo maybe was conflicted and therefore he should have moved from the chair. By that time, President Zuma is already being sentenced and all of that. Where does that leave us? And the answer was, well, it's of no consequence. So in other words, you have a justice system that can undermine other elements of the justice system that are meant to ensure that there is a fair process. And then you expect a person to comply with processes that are just blatantly unfair. This is the situation. So President Zuma is saying, what's going on here now? Why am I being persecuted on the highest court of the land when I'm waiting for a review application?
All
And
right.
it's been made countless times.
Let's go back to the beginning then. Let's go right back to the beginning. When did the president
Watch this.
first realize that the commission chair was no longer neutral?
Watch the coming responses.
I think he had been there more than twice. Because, if you want to say, let's go right to the beginning, let's indeed go to the beginning and
There
say
you go.
the establishment of this commission, what was the constitutionality issues around the establishment of this commission? Now, if you go to the Constitution, there's only one person that has got a right to establish a commission, and that's the president. And in this case, what has happened, there was some 50-50 power sharing that is not provided for in the Constitution. Judge Zondo was actually selected by Chief Justice Mkhweng. And in the Constitution, there is no power sharing that is provided for. But in this situation, there was power sharing. So that's where this thing went wrong in the first place.
But why
Okay.
didn't he point
Yeah,
out
yeah,
at that
yeah.
stage that we can't have Justice Zondo because he is a friend of the family? Why didn't he say it then, right at the beginning?
It's because the recommendations of the public protector are binding in the first place. So this was the recommendation by the public protector, who said the Chief Justice must have a list of one that President Zuma needs to choose from. By the way, President Zuma did actually, after all of that, take that whole thing on review to try and make sure that thing is straightened up. But with the change of regime, then the new regime, the sixth administration decided that they're not going to cover his costs, and they withdrew because that was a case of the presidency. So the presidency then removed that case from the roll, as it were. That's how this thing got scattered. Then he was now forced to cooperate with the situation.
Hey, this
so
guy.
President Zuma's role in the establishment of this commission was actually clerical. All he did was just to sign where he was pointed down. The Chief Justice Mukwen just showed him on the dotted line that we shall just sign here. And that's all he did
All right,
because
so
he had
when
to
he
comply.
said when
Hey,
he
Manyi,
said that
you
he
too,
has
very
every
good.
faith in the work of the commission and the chair back then, he didn't mean it.
President Zuma is a very
Let's hear this
disciplined
question. Let's
person.
hear this question again.
It was his duty
I
to
missed it.
ensure yeah, and that's all he did
All right,
because
so
he had
when
to
he
comply.
said that he has every faith in the work of the commission and the chair back then, he didn't mean it.
President Zuma is a very disciplined person. It was his duty to ensure that whatever problems he has with the commission, he puts them behind in the public interest.
He's giving.
If he had done anything different, the credibility of the commission would have been impacted. So he took
He's
away
giving
all
Manyi.
his differences, he parked them, and he thought, let him give this process a benefit of the doubt, as it were.
Hey, I
All
was
the
just
things
giving.
that he even knew about DCJ Zono that made him uncomfortable, he put them on the packed zone. He forgot them for a minute and gave the process a chance. Because President Zuma is a fair person, he
Okay.
understands what oppression is,
Hey,
he understands
hey,
what lack of justice is. So he decided that he's going to be a bigger man, as it were, and put
Hey,
this to
Manyi
the
is a
side
skill
and
him.
give the process a fair chance.
All right, so-
And in fact, his own organization had endorsed the commission and all of that. So indeed, everybody thought, well, let's work with the commission, let's give it a fair chance. And that's what he did.
All right.
But instead, when he got there, first time, second time, in the commission, and then as the work was progressing, I think he could pick up that their backward relationship, historical relationship with DCJ
Now he
Zono
picked up.
are coming into the mix, and they are causing him to lose neutrality.
Okay.
As it
We'll talk about
So he
the
put that on the
neutrality.
table.
We'll talk about the neutrality just now, but he then appeared at the commission, and during questioning, they stopped halfway, and he says, "This is starting to feel like an interrogation. It's not feeling like an inquiry anymore. We're going to leave." And there was an agreement that questions would be sent to him and that he would answer several affidavits because other people had testified and put evidence against him. And the procedure is that you then put in an answering affidavit. The president and his lawyers agreed that that's what would happen, but he didn't put any answering affidavits. Why didn't he do that?
If you were to roll to the clip of what happened on those last days that President Zuma attended there, one of the things that his lawyer said, the advocate Kakani, he gave when there was this impasse, he gave the commission two options, two options to follow. There was this one, which was likely to hit waters, to hit rough waters as it were. And there was another process where he said, we can also look at remedy number 2, where I, as the lawyer of President Zuma, I can sit with your lawyers, Justice Zondo, to try and see how we can deal with all these issues that President Zuma is worried about in terms of preventing him from tabling his version in a manner that is not adversarial. He gave that option, as it were. And today, when we speak as if we've got this renegade, President Zuma,
Mr.
that
Manyi,
wanted his
Mr.
way on the
Manyi,
highway.
Mr. Manyi, why isn't there a single affidavit from President Zuma at the Commission of Inquiry
I tell-
giving a version of any kind?
Journalist keeps coming, yeah?
But you see, this is the thing is maybe we're not listening to each other. I'm saying to you, there was a second remedy that was also proposed by the legal team of President Zuma to say, let them sit as the team and knock this thing out as matured people so that there is a conducive climate and environment for President Zuma to be able to table his vision. When all of that was not agreed and all that that the legal team of the commission wanted was just the adversarial route as
But
it
Mr.
were.
Manyi,
How to go?
Mr. Manyi, every single
Yes.
other witness at the commission has put in an affidavit. And the thing about an affidavit is that you're not under pressure, you've got time to write it with your lawyers, and you give a version, and you're not being harassed, you're not being cajoled. You have time to put a version on the table.
You also
So
got
that would have
time
been the
to
best
ask,
route,
yeah?
surely, instead of sitting across a prosecutor and having discussions, when you could just sit in an office with your lawyer, write your story,
Hey, this
and
guy's
give it
got
to the
time to
commission.
follow up on Manyi.
Well, that's what you would think it works. It looks like from outside. It doesn't work like that. And I speak from experience. I've been there myself. It doesn't work like that. What you've just painted is just a hairy fairy. It's just a nice story. The reality of the situation is that even when you've done your affidavit, you've submitted there's people there called evidence leaders. They cherry pick that.
But that's
that
post the
affidavit.
fact. That's post the fact. The point is that the
Ah.
affidavit comes first, and that didn't even happen. The evidence
Two
leading
bulls
is post the fact of an affidavit.
on the stable,
But we
yeah.
never even got to that point.
President Zuma went there twice.
But no affidavits.
He went there twice, yes. He went there twice to table his version. He was questioned twice. Why are you speaking as if you were talking about somewhere that never even went there? He went there twice.
Yes, he
So
went.
how did they do that?
But one of the questions was, will you please answer these affidavits? There were, I think, about 30 plus answering affidavits that were required, and now those were never responded to or replied to.
That's not true. What you're saying is not true. One of the affidavits, for instance, that he had to respond to was Themba Maseko's one, that he was asked about and he responded to that. So it's not true to say what you're saying. So there were a couple of others he was asked about, questions that were cherry picked from those affidavits that were put to him.
All right.
So to say that he didn't
so what you're saying
respond
is
is not true.
So what you're saying, his oral evidence was sufficient. He didn't need to write anything down.
Well, oral evidence is admissible evidence that if it's done under oath.
Okay,
so
so-
why do you want to characterize that as if it's a problem?
No, I'm just saying. I'm just clarifying. That that's
Nothing-
how
no,
you saw it.
It's an option. It's an option. If you can go and say things under oath, and we are recorded and all of that, witnesses and all of that, it plays the same role as an affidavit.
All right.
So don't put don't try and position a written affidavit as if it's a be all and end all. We are misleading the public by doing that.
All right. Let's
We are
move on.
making it as if because that is not there, therefore there was no cooperation.
Ay,
That
ay,
is
ay,
misleading the public.
All right. Let's move on to the neutrality. What is it that Justice Zondo did that showed that he was being biased or not neutral?
Well, that matter is what was tabled in the review court. I think what media should be doing, if we had a fair media in this country, they should be putting pressure on that court to say, court, where are you? Why is this court not pronouncing on this matter? A lot of other things have started, are finishing, and we're getting a person getting detained without trial, yet we've got a court that is still has not pronounced on this matter. Why is the court sitting on this? That's one of the reasons why we're having a problem here. If that court had pronounced that Justice Zondo is neutral, the case would have been closed. Or
That's a
is
good
not
point.
neutral, somebody else must come in.
Media
The case would have
is
been closed. I
one-sided.
think one of the biggest problems that we're facing with this commission is even this shorthand that is used to call it a Zondo commission. That's a problem. That commission is not a Zondo commission. It's a state of capture, commission.
Yeah, but
Therefore,
Mr. Manyi, it's not
if-
uncommon though to call a commission by the judge's name. It
No,
happens.
no, but here's the point. Here's the point. The reason is called the State of Capture Commission. It's not the Zondo Commission. It's because if Justice Zondo, he was to whatever, God forbid, something happens to him, it doesn't mean that that commission work would stop. So we can't have a situation
That's a
where
point to think about.
an impression is created that without Judge Zondo sitting on
But-
the chair, there's not going to be a commission.
But we're talking
That's all that should
because
have happened. That
Okay.
for 2-3
because
days,
we
Justice
know,
Zondo moves
Mr.
off the
Manyi,
chair
you are saying
and
that
allows a neutral chairperson who wouldn't be having this problem that we're having
hindsight.
today. That's really the nub of the
Mr.
issue.
Manyi is just saying
We are
that it's
where we are
hindsight.
today
right?
simply because
Sadly, we're running out of
TCJ
time.
Zondo did not want
We're
to
running
move
out
from
of
the
time,
chair.
Mr. Manyi. But perhaps one final question: is the president going to cooperate with the police if they come to the house today to take him away?
President Zuma right now, his legal team is not sleeping. They're up and down, cooperating with the justice system of this country. Now, the only thing that would cause problems is if the justice system of this country does not cooperate with all the things that the legal team is doing. So I think the question that should be asked is,
you're putting
will
it in
the
a
justice
silly
system
way.
cooperate with all the applications and the
What is
requests and the
cooperating then?
submissions that the lawyers are making to ensure
Lawyers
that the process is
are
smooth, to
cooperating,
ensure that there are
and
no
if the justice is not
unnecessary
cooperating,
maricanas that are going to happen
Hey,
in
that's
Uganda. This is
a
what we're
funny
trying to
statement.
avoid. So indeed, the ball is in the court of the judiciary. And right now, our lawyers are knocking on doors.
What is-
They're waiting for
what is the
them
meaning
to
of the word
respond
cooperating?
And come up with a response that is going to ensure that we have an amicable solution to this thing. So right now, the ball is in the court of the justice system.
So
No,
the president
no.
won't be going to prison today.
That's clever.
We're hoping not. We're hoping that an innocent man like President Zuma should not be going to jail today. We do not support that President Zuma should go to jail because we believe that President Zuma is innocent. We believe that it's a travesty of justice to send a man to jail without a trial. We think it's a travesty of justice. We think it's apartheid
Look at
days
Edward.
to have a detention without trial. It's shocking. It's disappointing.
Okay, Mr. Manyi, we're going to have to leave it there. But thank
Let's go back to that point.
The system of this country does not cooperate.
Yeah, there you are. You're talking.
His legal team is not sleeping. They're up and down, cooperating with the justice
down,
system of this
cooperating.
country. Now, the only
What is
thing that
that?
would cause problems is if the justice system of this country does not cooperate with all the things that
You're misusing the
legal
word
team is
cooperates
doing.
there.
So I think the question that should be asked is, will the justice system cooperate with all the applications and the requests and the submissions that the lawyers are making to ensure that the process is smooth, to ensure that there are no unnecessary
Nah, let's-
maricanas that are going to happen
Let's leave
in
it there.
Uganda.
Let's
This
leave
is
it
what
there,
we're trying
Baba.
to